Today is October 17th, 2021. Time is 4:30 a.m. This is P.2quared Journal Entry 12. So I've been up for a few hours working on the paper that I've been basing the past few Helix constituent particle discussions on. And while I was going over it, trying to put my thoughts into words so that I could put them on paper, I began to realize that there are pieces of this hypothesis that I am ignoring, that I know that are incorrect. I moved on to a discussion of particle characteristics. And one of the biggest things that has been bothering me is the fact that I keep allowing a multi-vector movement for a helix constituent that I intuitively am thinking is not correct. So what is bothering me, to draw it out, is that we have we're just going to pretend like we have a little quark right here. And what I said the other day was that helix constituents come out, and when they come out, they get clipped on the way out. So they're originally given a vector where they're coming in this direction, but then they're also, just due to the vibration of what's happening inside of that particle, giving a rotation in this direction. And that would give you electron shells. I don't know if I'm going to abandon that yet, but what I do know is that I need a secondary way for this hypothesis. I need a secondary way for this hypothesis to be able to work without the rotation that we are assuming that an individual helix constituent can have. So, because my intuition is saying that a helix constituent, once given, once it has an interaction, with another constituent, that the full energy of the first constituent is given to the second one. So you'll go, and if this guy has an interaction with this guy, and this guy will, according to our frame of reference, not moving. When this guy hits this guy will now be not moving, and number two will now take his energy packet and continue moving. So that being the case, or that being the assumption, it's hard for me to also assume that if an entire energy packet is going to be given from one to the other, how in the world do you get a spin off of it if you have complete energy transfer? So let's clean the screen up real quick. I don't see that making sense from a geometric standpoint. Now, give me a few days and I might come on and say, hey, what I said in 12 was wrong. But what I'm working on now is the idea that there is no rotation in the interactions between constituents. That changes the theory drastically, because it causes you to look at electron shells very differently from the way that I've been conceptualizing them over the past few months. That being the case, your electron or shell would come from a constituent being ejected, and as it's ejected, it would gather mass as other constituents are having collisions with it, and so it would become a larger particle. As it travels away from the mother particle, though, it would eventually begin to lose mass, just because things aren't able to, it's not able to continue to coalesce because of the distance from the mother particle. Your coalition from a particle is decreased as you get exponentially further away. So when you look at that, that would mean that your electron orbit would come in this first round, and you would, I believe, at this point, because I'm straight up hypothesizing on screen right now, you would have your orbit, the orbit's somewhere in here, but where the orbit is in relation to what this constituent cluster is doing as it's leaving, I don't know at this point. So it's almost like being back at square one, but I refuse to say square one because, well, I still really like the hypothesis that the fundamental constituent is a helix. But now the dynamics of those movements are having to be completely rethought. Like I've been trying to scratch it out all morning, and I just I am not making heads or tails of it at this point. So it's when this comes together, because now a graviton looks very different. A graviton, before, it was its gravity's weakness in its interaction was just a function of the fact that you had far fewer interactions instead of a large number of interactions. But now, like, the geometry of it has completely changed to almost be a cross tension between particles. So the reason that gravity would be so much weaker than electromagnetic force, even though technically it's the same force, is because of the geometry that a graviton has, because of the way it was formed relative to the two up quarks that are in a proton, right? So it's become complicated. I might have to skip talking about the Helix constituent for the next few days while I hammer this out, because this is kind of a big bump in the road. But I will keep y'all up to date on the progress made as I make the progress. On another note, when it comes to the schooling and college and all that stuff, I've decided what college I would love to get into. Now I just got to put together all of the necessary prerequisites to make it in. So everything's on track. I haven't been doing the schooling that I said I was going to do because I've been caught up in other projects. But today, maybe after a nap, that'll be what I get on, and I'll start cranking through that 800 hours of schoolwork that I have made up for myself. So there's a lot going on today. Those are the updates. You know, sometimes you marry an idea and you get down the road and then you realize that idea, you were ignoring some red flags that were very obvious from the very beginning. And in this situation, I always kind of had an idea that is a problem that I need to get hammered out of my head, and I have ignored it for years. And now that I've tried to put it on paper, I realize that is a major flaw in the theory. There we go again. You know, eventually, I'm going to, when I'm editing, make a drinking game where every time I say theory instead of hypothesis, I have to take a shot. Say that word way too much. does not apply here. Anyway,